what limits us going out into the world are our preconceived ideas of other people and their perceptions of us. Isn't that a limiting belief? Do you have that limiting belief? Does that stop you from going out there to the world and saying, hey, this is who I am and this is what I do? Because it's really hard, isn't it, when people then turn around and say, oh, that's a nice little side job you've got there, or I don't believe in that, or that's rubbish. It takes us aback because we're evidence-based, or at least I'm evidence-based. I look at the research. Hello and welcome. Mentoring with Geraldine is a bite-sized practitioner podcast for naturopaths, nutritionists, herbalists, and practitioners. This podcast responds directly to your needs, the needs of the practicing natural therapist. With interviews, herbal discussions, something business and something clinical each week, you'll get the variety you need and enjoy to stay motivated in practice. Hello everyone, and welcome to Mentoring with Geraldine and the Bite Size Podcast. How are you? How is your week progressing? What have you got lined up? What excitements have you got lined up? And what thoughts are running through your mind right now? So I've been talking, the last couple of sessions have been about limiting beliefs. So we've looked at the beliefs around ourselves and what's holding us back, our values as well, and how they can propel us forward, but at the same time hold us back. Then we talked about our abilities and how they can hold us back, push us forward, they can limit us. And then our health, our financial situation. And then last time I was going to talk health and work, and we only had time for health. So today I thought, let's talk about our limiting beliefs around our work selves and what we do. We're talking about barriers here as well. So the barriers being the very big picture, because we have physical barriers that can limit us, but then we have our limiting beliefs which stop us from sorting out those barriers or recognizing those barriers and working around them, or acknowledging them and knowing we can't change those. You can't change school hours. You can't change not being able to work on a particular day because all through the winter your children have a sport and you're part of the committee. You can't change that unless you think, no, it's not as important as my work, or, I have to do my work and I'm going to leave somebody else to be on the committee, or I've done my turn on the committee. Time to change. So what are our limiting beliefs around work, and what are physical barriers, emotional barriers, our spiritual, mental barriers around what we do? One of the things that I find with work, because this is work, podcasting is part of my work, the overarching, part of the podcast is, I don't earn any money. I don't go out there. I don't have adverts as part of the podcast. I'm not going out there to earn money. This costs me money to create. Bailey Rose does all my editing for me. She does all of the background stuff. So podcasting costs me money. It doesn't make me money in a right now sense. What it does for me is introduce me to you, because I'm in your head and you're listening to me right now. So we're getting introduced to each other. You know who I am. You're learning from me. If you're watching on YouTube, you're seeing me as well. It's all about the work is this big picture. What can we fit into it? What do we want to put into it that means we spend money? So I spend money on the podcast. And what is it that we earn money from? So I earn money from my courses, I don't earn money from my public speaking regularly. That's normally, I speak for a lot of associations, and so that's for free, that's volunteer, so that the associations or the organisation earns the money and I don't. I gift a lot of my time. We've got the free group, we've got Strictly Education and Support, and once a week I'm in there for free. So there's a lot of free that I give, a lot. I've got to earn money on the other side of that. I've got a mortgage to pay, I've got bills that need paying, I've got to put petrol in the car, I've got to service the car, I've got to pay my electricity bill. Actually, electricity bill is really easy because it's fully solar, so in actual fact the electricity is the cheapest thing I have. But what are these barriers around what I do? What prevents me from getting out perhaps into the community? So when I was looking for more and more clients, now my books are pretty closed. I'm very picky about who I take on because I don't have a lot of time for outside of the mentoring. So I'm doing about 80-20. And so I'm not taking on that many clients. So I'm very, very particular about the clients I'm taking on. That 80% is is the mentoring side. But for that 20%, if I wanted to get out into the community, I'm talking to people a lot in the academy about who they can reach out to, who they can collaborate with, encouraging them. Oh, amazing message. One of my mentees went to a local practice, introduced herself, met with everybody at their specialist gynaes. She met with them and she was able to go out there and do that. She knows that we've been behind her 100%. She's motivated to do it. She went and did it. She had a great conversation with them. She put it, in the messages to us in the group. We were all 100%, wow, you're amazing, you've done it. Because that can be really tough on our psyche, can't it? Going out there and telling other people what your work is, because we know there's a lot of negativity to what we do. We know there's a lot of misconceptions. We know there's a lot of myths around what we do. And we know that there's people in our business who are terrible and they bring us down. But in every business, there's those people. I had an electrician who fell through my ceiling and trashed a ceiling fan when he put them up. And I had another electrician come and replace the ceiling fan, and man plasterboard the ceiling because he was a rubbish electrician. Now, that's not to say all electricians are rubbish. It was just him. And that's not, so we have to think to ourselves, not every doctor's rubbish. I went to a terrible doctor about 10 years ago, but every GP I've been to since then has been amazing. And so what limits us going out into the world are our preconceived ideas of other people and their perceptions of us. Isn't that a limiting belief? Do you have that limiting belief? Does that stop you from going out there to the world and saying, hey, this is who I am and this is what I do? Because it's really hard, isn't it, when people then turn around and say, that's a nice little side job you've got there, or I don't believe in that, or that's rubbish. It takes us aback because we're evidence-based, or at least I'm evidence-based. I look at the research is coming out, not the YouTube research from people who say they've read something, or the one solo piece of research. What I'm looking at the moment, I've joined a number of groups, and one of the groups that I've joined, there's one piece of research saying people are having too much zinc. And so now everyone's having too much zinc, and so everyone's saying, no, we've got to stop people taking zinc. And of course, as therapists, as naturopaths and nutritionists, we're giving zinc because we can see through their bloods or their hair mineral analysis or through their symptom picture that they need zinc. We're looking at the whole person in a holistic manner, but we're using the research that shows us that yes, they do need zinc, rather than this one piece of research that's saying, hey, there's too much zinc out there, which is what I'm seeing for people who haven't got this background training we've got, who aren't reading the bigger picture research and only looking very small microcosm stuff. So it can be hard to get out there to share ourselves and our work, and that can limit us because we think people are going to say to us. Now, it's a huge percentage of the population, the world's population. The World Health Organization did put out world statistics as to the number of people in the world who use natural health. And it was a huge number. It was a huge, huge number. It was a phenomenal percentage. And so those are the people who do agree. They're not necessarily vocal though. The ones who are vocal are often the ones who've had a problem, a chip on their shoulder. That one GP that I saw was absolutely dreadful. I could have a total chip on my shoulder. I could be yelling to the world that all GPs are terrible because there's one guy I saw. Or I no longer see male GPs. That has put me off male GPs. I only see female GPs now. And I've only had the very best experiences since just making that decision. I'm not going to see any more blokes. I'm done. I only had poor experiences with men. I've had good experiences as well. But the 3 poor experiences I've had have been with men. So I've made that change. But we have to think to ourselves, am I going to go out there and shout about that? No. I am going to go and say to people, hey, you have to see one of these 5 female GPs who are all amazing, because they really think about the big picture, that yes, they're totally allopathic, but they're empathetic in who they are. They're holistic in who they are. They are thinking of you as the whole person and how they can help you. All right. So when we think of our own work and putting ourselves out to the world, we do have these limiting beliefs around what people are going to say. What we need to remind ourselves of is, remember the very first one we talked about, values. That is where they are at now. They are not ready for change. They are not in a learning space right now. They are not ready to hear what or listen, understand what you have to say. They're in a different space. And we've got so many keyboard warriors right now making all their statements. A few months ago, everybody knew all there was to know about viruses, and now suddenly everybody knows all there is to know about war. And these are people's opinions. They are held by them, the individual, that's them. That's not your opinion. And we have to remember that about ourselves when we're sharing as well. How am I sharing my opinion? Am I sharing a limiting belief? Am I encapsulating the greater portion, the greater good of what's going on? How can I share my beliefs, my work, what I do with the world without sharing my limiting beliefs? How can I share what I know, what I've learned, what I understand in a way that supports other people and doesn't dismiss the people that say, oh, it's rubbish, but rather acknowledges them and lets it go, okay? Rather than taking on their limiting belief on top of our own limiting beliefs, of which we have numerous, don't we? So in the Academy recently, I've really been talking about who we can share with, who we can get out to talk, how we can get out there and share with the world what we do. Because it's really important. We're coming up to the Programs and Practice Study Day, and then for May and June, we're really going to be working on launching those, sharing those, increasing our list. And the Academy is about practice, right? It's not a marketing channel. I'm not teaching you marketing. I'm teaching you a way, I'm sharing with you ways to support what you do in the real world. Okay, I think I've told you before, my dad was what would now be described as an advertising executive. So I've got a lot of that background of sales and marketing, but not like it is now. I do all the things, of course I do. I'm on Instagram, I'm making reels. Here I am making a podcast. Here I am sharing my work just as I am getting those people in the Academy to share their work in the ways in which they can share it. And of course, I can use the technology, so I am able to describe and explain and all of that to help people. Our limiting beliefs around our work, I've talked about in the past, so the physical barriers, like the kids are at school, we only have school hours to work, or we don't have kids, but we have another job. So those are our physical limiting barriers that can or can't be changed or modified. But what are our limiting beliefs around what we do? And the more we hear people saying to us, oh, you're rubbish, you don't know what you're doing, the more we hear that negativity, the more we do take it on board. So I believe that every time we hear this super negative stuff, even if you don't feel you can vocally reply to that person at the time because it's not on a forum you can reply, you're not actually in that Facebook, it's the news, you see it on the TV, so you can't reply, then we need to say out loud, that is not true. That is a falsehood. And then think to ourselves, how can I make sure that I am sharing with everyone that is a falsehood, that is a myth, that the majority of the world's population are using natural therapies to their best advantage. And they're using them alongside allopathic health as well. So I would never, ever dismiss medicine in favor of totally doing natural health. I'm totally the complementary therapist. I am totally like, let's do it all. Why would you say no to something when there is clear evidence it's working? Why wouldn't you do our stuff alongside? Because the evidence is there for a lot of things, not for everything, but for a lot of things, that if you do the natural stuff and the good stuff alongside, you're going to get a better result. So when we hear other people's sound bites putting limiting beliefs on us, what are we doing to not take them on board? What are we doing to make sure that we can stay positive, we can keep working even in a pressure-filled society that says what we do is rubbish? What can you do for your inner health, for your limiting beliefs, for your psyche to stand up and say, actually, what I do is good? Save those reviews. Keep them there. Keep them as wallpaper on your computer so you can see the good things people are saying about you. Keep records of improvements that you make. These are all the things that help us move forward. These are the things we can share with other people, and they knock our limiting beliefs on the head as well by seeing the changes we make in people, by the thank yous that we get from people, the reviews that we get from people. There's a point. Please review the podcast. The reviews, when we see them, they help us to keep going. They give us that positive mindset. They help us to realize that we're going in the right direction and we're able to knock those limiting beliefs on the head. And the other thing, when we hear them, right, we hear our thoughts, so I'm just going to go up to the local physio and introduce myself. Oh, actually, it's school pickup time. I won't do that right now. Maybe I'll do it tomorrow. We've already hit a roadblock, haven't we? We have already hit a roadblock because the next day, I was going to go up to the physio today and introduce myself. I can't do that because, all right. So here we are hitting limiting beliefs that are going on in our own head. We're turning ourselves off. When we hear these, we need to go, well, you know what? I can't do it today because this, that, and the other thing, but I am going to do it by 11 a.m. on Friday at the latest. There is no reason, I'm going to look at my diary. There is absolutely no reason why I can't do it at X time. I'm going to put a timer in the diary because I'm just putting this off. I'm just putting it to the back of my mind and putting it off. I'm going to put a timer on my phone. I'm going to put it in my diary, and that is the time that I am going up there. Whether I've phoned them or not, whether I've done anything about it or not, that is what I am doing. And then once I get in there, if they turn around and say, oh no, today, now's a really bad time, everyone's busy, can you come? Because they will say, come back at 3 o'clock, come back at 5 o'clock, come back at... You don't know until you've gone somewhere, until you've asked whether or not it was a good or a bad idea. So what are your limiting beliefs around your work? What is holding you back? Okay, we do this sort of work in the academy all the time. I've got spreadsheets for it. We have discussions. We have visualizations in there to support you in practice so that you can really get how you want to practice up and running and sharing it to the world. So I hope I've helped today. I'm going to leave it there where I'm just heading into the 20-minute mark. And of course, it's the Bite Size Podcast, isn't it? So I look forward to seeing you really soon. Do get in contact. I love to hear from people. I'm getting lots of questions all the time. And then it's wonderful content for me if you ask me questions. So have an absolutely brilliant rest of day. And I look forward to catching up with you on the cast again. See ya. Thanks so much for joining me today. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast for the weekly episodes. If you'd like even more support and learning, then the Academy is for you. Here you'll find part 2 of the herbal discussions, more clinical learning, and case studies to support your clients in practice. Bye for now.